All right, Georgia and Florida State will play in the Orange Bowl. That news breaking just after, it was evident right after Georgia and Florida State did not get in. There's a lot of reasons why they're going to play each other. Obviously, both because they're not playing in the playoff, number one. But then number two, as I've been discussing with y'all for some time, the number one non BCS, excuse me, the number one, the highest ranked non-champion of the ACC and SEC is mandated to go play in the Orange Bowl. It's the last year of that. There's so much of the last year of things. Thank God. We really got to get into a better situation in terms of all this stuff. I just listened to Kirby and Mike Norvell. Mike Norvell's got a great point. I mean, I don't think they belonged in over the four teams that went in, personally, but that doesn't mean they weren't an undefeated team. Didn't mean they didn't win their league. I mean, every game they played, they won. They're not as good as Georgia. They're not as good as Michigan. They're not as good as Alabama. They're not as good as Washington. They're not as good as UW. But they don't get the chance to show that. They get the chance to show that they're better than Georgia. That's it. And we really, as a a world, college football world, we should be getting past the situation that we're in. Thankfully, this will end next season, but it doesn't help Florida State or Georgia this year. I mean, this is a Georgia team that certainly could still win the national championship if they were playing for it, but they're not going to be because they lost by 3 points on a neutral field to Alabama. I mean, it's that simple. So there was a lot of stuff that happened today that, it's not the best four teams. It just isn't. It's actually not the most deserving anymore either. So it's just whatever the committee wants in that particular year, and that's a challenging thing to get past and get through for a lot of people in college football. I do think Alabama should be in, but I think that that they're in. The explaining of it, I just don't know. I mean, because if it's the best four, you didn't have Georgia, you don't have the best four, and that's just all there is to it. But this is the world we live in, and now everybody will have to turn their focus to the Orange Bowl. One of these two teams is going to win this game, and the other is going to lose. And you do not want to be the team that loses this game, period. I think, Georgia's in a much better position than Florida State to win this game for a lot of different reasons. But most notably, the reason that Florida State lost out the chance to play the college football playoff, which is they don't have their quarterback. I mean, they do not have their starting quarterback. And that is not an insignificant thing. And by the way, just as an aside, I know a lot of people really are, they like the little guy, like they want to cheer for Coastal Carolina or Liberty. It's a joke that those teams are in the playoff in the future. They don't belong. I don't care, and I say that as a person that went to a little school. They shouldn't be in the playoff, and it's just ridiculous that Liberty's playing where they're playing, which is against Oregon. It's not. It's silly. I'm gonna turn this light down real quick, but we're just, I just it's silly. But there's a lot of stuff that's silly that's been going on here these last few 24 hours or so, and just we're at where we're at. Hey, check out our buddies at EcoPoly. Just a really awesome variety of items that you can use at your home, in your outdoor space, at your pool, mountain, beach, whatever you want to. This is just one of their Adirondack chairs. It's got Georgia colors. Let's just say that you're very interested in your Georgia room. EcoPoly is doing a great job of giving you what you can use in your house and around your house, or maybe it's your second house. So the link to them is down below. They've been great. They continue to be great. We're going to see them help us out from here on out. But we're going to be going down speaking of Adirondack chairs and outdoor living and all that, that's what it's going to be like in South Florida. I mean, there's going to be a lot of outdoorsy situations down there. Personally, I'm excited that, I get the chance to not be away on New Year's. That's exhausting. This has been an exhausting season, and Georgia went 12-1, so I could only imagine what it's like for the kids. It's tough, it's rough, and we'll see. These next few days are going to be important days and moments. The transfer portal will open up on the 4th, if my math is right. We're going to see what happens with guys like, clearly Brock Bowers is going to the NFL. We're going to see what happens with guys like Carson Beck. And there's a few players left who still have there are a couple of players left still on this roster who have COVID years, but there's not a lot of them left. So we'll see what the status is of the health of Jamon Dumas-Johnson. Well, honestly, with Jamon, Ladd, Amarius Mims, Brock Bowers, all the guys that were kind of banged up and were limited or couldn't play against Alabama. We'll see what happens with them as time goes on. But this is a Georgia team that kind of is in the situation Alabama was in last year. I mean, they're better than Alabama was last year and have multiple losses like Bama. But, Alabama felt like they should have been in the playoff. They should not have been in the playoff. But they went down to New Orleans and they absolutely hammered Kansas State. Georgia should bury Florida State. I mean, that's what should happen in this iteration of the Noles. I mean, even with their starting quarterback, Florida State would be an underdog here. I think the problem for both teams heading into this game is this is not where they wanted to be, and that affects players. That matters to players. We saw that in the Sugar Bowl for sure in 2018. Georgia should have been in the playoff that year, but they were not because, I don't know the reasons after a while. I can't remember every year there's some different, variable or, ramification. This time it matters if you lose in September. This time it doesn't. This time it matters if you win your division. This time it doesn't. I just want to know what the rules are. I know the rules next year are the best 11 teams and some idiot else is getting into this thing, and those 12 teams will play. So, ain't no Cinderellas in college football. That's not real. You want that? You go celebrate UCF's 2017 national championship, okay? That's not what this is. This is the land of big boys. This is the land of brand names. This is the land of giants. And, you're not going to see, I don't know, Mississippi State. I don't even know who you pick a name. Louisville. You're not going to see them just like get hot or Liberty, better example, Liberty, Coastal, Old Dominion. These teams that there's no point in them being in there. They're taking a spot from someone who really should be in, but I digress. I just want to know what the rules are, and then you just go play. Yesterday, the rules were the rules. Essentially, it didn't matter that Georgia had won all their games. It only came down to that game, and that was it. That was, not the case last year. That was not the case in 2021. But this shifting of what the parameters are, as a former college basketball player, I never got too worked up about who got into the NCAAs and who didn't. You had a very direct path in that scenario where if you won your conference championship, you win. And there was just nothing to talk about. There's also 68 teams and all that stuff. We don't have that in college football. You can win your conference and not go. Florida State says hello. So I think the Noles are going to be pretty pissed off about being there. I think Georgia will be, aggravated because they rightfully feel like they're one of the best 4 teams in the country. I mean, Florida State feels that too, but I think for the Noles, it's even, I do not think they should have been put in, but it's even more ridiculous for them. They didn't lose a game at all. They won their league, and there they were at 4, and they get moved away by 2 teams. Everybody wants chaos. If you want chaos, you're an idiot. I want the best teams. If you want chaos, go take all the money out of your bank account and throw it up in the air in a crowded street. There's your chaos. College football doesn't need chaos. It needs to make sense. And I'm not sure. Today made the most sense that it could make considering the situation. It wasn't great. It could have been worse, actually. But I am confused. consistently by the college football playoff. And this is a person, I mean, I'm not poorly educated. I've been around the block for a while, and I just don't know what the rules are. It's a little bit like watching pass interference in the SEC. I don't know what it is anymore. I don't know what. I'm not sure I understand what a completed pass is anymore, or horse collar. I mean, there are so many things that are beyond me some of these days. It's it's disturbing. Well, disturbing is probably an over exaggeration, but it's silly. And all of these kids, the kids at Florida State, Georgia, Alabama, whoever, Michigan. I mean, Michigan's coach has been suspended for 6 games for admittedly cheating, and they're in the playoff. Like, what is this? So I don't, I mean, I just, what are the rules? And let's go do it. But anyway, the Noles and Georgia, I think it's a great matchup, but we'll just see if anyone cares.